Hey guys, this is my youth ministry project for to turn in on week 9. I'll just start out by saying that I am an advocate for student ministry. I don't have anything against the family ministry, and I think that the family ministry plays important roles. And through watching the video, the documentary that we had, and through our readings and our presentations every week, I can see the importance of family ministry and how ministry starts in the home, and I think that's very very important in our churches. But one of the common things that has been like driving me towards student ministry this whole time is some of my own experiences as a youth in the youth ministry group at my church, and then also some of the statistics of the church that I attend. So, as I've been thinking about this project, I've kind of looked around and I found that many of the youth that are involved in our church, in my personal church, which is Marietta First Baptist, they're either coming with maybe grandparents or close relatives or friends, or maybe their parents are dropping them off and leaving. But it seems that many of the kids in our youth group don't have that strong spiritual or godly relationship with their parents at home, if they even have parents in the picture. Now, the area that I live in, the area that my church is in, there's a lot of kids that are being raised by family members other than their parents. Lots of times the parents are not in their home, and that really made me think that maybe the student ministry in our church or the youth group in our church, maybe where they're finding common ground with other students and love from the youth leader, the youth minister, the volunteers, small group leaders, that type of thing. And then as I did my projects, I interviewed the 3 different students and their parents, and I found that all the parents seem to want their kids to not just fulfill life goals for themselves or life goals that the parents would want, but they want them to fulfill the goals that God would have for them, and they want them to establish a relationship with God and fulfill His will. And talking to some of the students, there's some funny answers. Like one of the early adolescents, 11 to 13-year-olds, Iris, that I interviewed, she was 11 years old, and when I look at the how she defines success or how she sees herself in 10 years or what her greatest fear is, I'll give you an example. It says, "What is your greatest fear?" One of her greatest fears is being late to class. So, in her life, that's something very important for her. And I can relate to some of the anxiety of school, when I was a student. But then you look at some of the greatest fears of an adult's life, kind of like I guess one of my greatest fears is the unknown, or something that I can't plan out. Maybe like what the future holds that I don't know about. So our even our fears are so much different than a small or young child. I think sometimes when we get them in the family setting, maybe it's hard for them to express, or maybe it's hard for us as adults to understand their fears and establish that common ground, to where when they're with other kids their age or with youth leaders who are focusing their messages towards that target audience of people their age, maybe that they can grow a little more spiritually. For me, being in a youth group as a student, I opened up a whole lot more than I did in the family setting, in the family ministry setting, like in our normal congregation. When I was in a youth group, I would open up a whole lot more because I didn't feel like I was having to meet the parent or adult expectations right there on me, but that I could be myself and kind of learn to live for the Lord on my own. And I do think that for the student ministry to work, the student leaders and pastors and volunteers, small group leaders, they all three, or they all, not all 3, but they all, whether it be volunteers, whether it be the youth pastor themselves, the youth minister, small group leaders, I think they all have to understand their role as not only teachers, but pastors, as administrators, uh, and as leaders and as developers. Sorry, I'm trying to look at my notes a little bit here, but I actually interviewed the youth pastor at my church, who I assist a lot. I help him volunteer in the youth group, but Chandler's pretty new. Him and his wife's only been in our church a couple months, but it seems that he really understands his roles as a teacher, as a pastor, as an administrator, as a leader, and as a developer. You know, he said that his role as a teacher was teaching with wisdom, presenting everyone mature in Christ. So, and one of the way that he does that is to help you know Jesus and to make Jesus known. And one of the things that he gave me was like the three parts of education is cognitive, which is head, affective, which is heart, and then psychomotor, which is hands. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading my own handwriting here. But the way that he answered these three were cognitive, or the head, is how you think and believe, into how you live. Like changing what's in your mind into how you live. So changing how your mind thinks about Christ to living for Christ. Affective is heart, which is your community and your small groups. And then psychomotor, which is your hands, is your missions and your serving. And, as a pastor, he understood that he's to shepherd his flock. And what he said as a pastor is he holds weekly services, community, sports, building trust and respect, building those relationships. And being the administrator and leader, being responsible to his position at the church and respectful of his position at the church, doing what's best for the church and what's best for the ministry. And then a developer is helping other people to grow as leaders. And I think all these answers that he gave me were like spot on. They really encouraged me a little bit and helped me, because I plan to be a youth pastor one day. And then I got to looking at the where I had to evaluate a youth event. So I actually helped at a youth event. I was with the kids there in a week at a church up in North Carolina. So I'm trying to move out the light a little bit here. But, the event went really, really well. I really liked the event, really liked being with the church staff there, all the volunteers there, and I really liked being with the students. But one thing that I think that was kind of missed was they had two pastors each day. In the morning they had one pastor, in the evening they had one pastor. The students were staying on campus, the guys were staying in the youth pastor parsonage, the girls were staying in the church. So we had a chance to minister to them twice that day, through ministry all day long, but through like a preaching setting. We had 2 times per day, one in the morning, one in the night. And I think that really we kind of missed some of our audience, because we had a lot of older senior pastors coming in speaking that would come in and speak and then leave. They weren't with the students the rest of the day. And the youth pastor and some of his assistants weren't with the students a lot. They were there, but they were doing their own thing, hanging out with one another, and not really intermingling with our students. But I think that we need to intermingle with the students, and we need to intermingle with the students' families also, so that they're equipped, that they're getting that family setting at home, that family ministry at home, and then when they come to church, they have the opportunities to really learn and be responsible for their own spirituality and relationship with Christ in the youth group. The event still went really, really well, and I enjoyed it. Was glad to be a part of it. But I think that's something that we can all improve on, is finding common ground with those that we're ministering to. I really enjoy doing this project. I've learned a lot. The hands-on part of the project really, really helps me, and I really enjoy the class. Thank you guys so much.